Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jay Singh, and I'm the founder of Publication Academy, your online training partner for higher ed career advancement and professional development. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today for this installment of our Career Pathways series, Exiting Academia. Today, we have a fascinating interview with Dr. Suzanne Minton, who successfully transitioned from completing a PhD in pharmacology into the exciting industry vertical of biotech. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Over now to our amazing Publication Academy interviewer, Dr. Gertrude Nantra.
Hello everyone, Dr. G. Nantra here, and today I'm excited to have Dr. Suzanne Minton joining me, and welcome, Dr. Minton.
Welcome, Dr. Nantra. So lovely to talk to you.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to chat with you. Let's start with your educational background.
So I did my undergrad at Duke University, and then I worked for a while, and then I went on to get my PhD in pharmacology from UNC Chapel Hill in the School of Medicine.
Mm-hmm. And you decided after you, let me not assume, but after you finished your PhD, did you go straight out into like a job outside of academia? How did that work out?
Yeah, so I did not do a postdoc. I went straight into industry, and the reason I decided to do that was I enjoyed and I really valued all that I learned at the bench, but I realized it wasn't really the area where I would shine. And I feel like my role in scientific content and communications just suits my skill set so much better. So I've been doing that for over a decade now, and it's been a much better fit.
Yeah, much better fit. I like that. And it's okay to say, I feel like we probably in that sense we're similar, because I too, at the bench, I was like, yeah, I'm good at this. And I was productive and published papers, but then I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I find that communications and writing is more my speed. And so let's talk about what you do now, though. What do you do now?
So now for the past, I guess it'll be over a decade, 12 years, I think, in February, I've been at a company called Certara, which is a global pharmaceutical technology and consulting firm. And I started out, as I joke, my first year I was starting in the proverbial mailroom, but I've worked my way up, gotten a couple promotions, and I'm currently a director of content strategy. So I manage a small team, and what my team does is we provide all the content for our marketing department. So I run the blog, we do webinars, case studies, white papers, all that sort of thing. We also run our PR program, and I'll tell you our big win that we had in 2024 that was really exciting for us is that I got one of our subject matter experts coverage in Wired magazine. So that was a real win.
Yeah, so exciting. So exciting. Congratulations on that. That's a big deal. So on a day-to-day basis, or maybe on a weekly basis, right, for somebody that's a director of content strategy. Now, I want to actually take a few steps back and talk about how you found that first job, right? Because that's always the challenge for people, for folks. Like, we're so used to the academic structure. You go from step to step to step. And there's sort of a ladder that you can see, that you can go up. But when it comes to jobs in the corporate world or in outside of academia, it can be a little less clear. So how did you, or clear, or as to how to even get them? So how did you find your first job, Suzanne?
That is a great question, Gertrude. It's definitely, like you said, it's a leap. It doesn't, you're taking a departure from the typical grad school to postdoc to professor trajectory. I think two of the things that I would say that were key in me making that jump were, one, having a really strong network. So I spent a lot of time building my network. I've actually been leading a mentoring and peer support group through Women in Bio, our local RTP chapter. I've been doing that for about 6 years, where I help support and mentor other women. So I think building your network so that you really, when you're looking for a job, you have people in your network that can give you ideas and help make introductions. I think the network is invaluable. And then I think also, a challenge for PhDs going into industry is, I think there's a little bit of a stereotype that PhDs skills don't translate outside of academia.
Right.
So I think one of the ways to counter that was I did some of the things in grad school that showed that I had transferable skills. So, for example, we have a technology transfer office, as many big universities do. And so I interned there. And one of the things I did was we had a portfolio of products that professors had developed, and they were looking to partner with commercial partners. And so they needed someone who could write non-technical lay language marketing briefs explaining not only the scientific value of the invention, but also the business value.
This is really good. So first of all, the networking part of it, I really enjoy. And this is something I'm always recommending. But one thing you said that I don't usually see talked about a lot is this idea of going to do an internship. And in your case, it was an internship on campus.
That's right.
Yeah, that's incredible. So it just kind of goes to show that you don't need to get the internship, or the experience you need is not always outside of the university. It could be right there, right? So seek out these experience building opportunities, that may be on your campus, because those could help. That is so good. I think
Thank you.
one of the first people, I know people talk to me about doing internships, but usually it's outside of academia. So this is the first time I'm hearing somebody say, I actually did an internship on campus. And so for those people that are watching this, that's something to look into. Are there offices on your campus? Are there departments on your campus where you could go and get these skills? Okay, so you got those. And then how did you get that first role?
So the first role, it definitely took a while. I think, and especially in this job market, like when people are looking for roles, I mean, I think it's reasonable to take 6 months to a year. Right. I think it definitely, so when I was getting near the end of graduate school, I looked about a year out and I started interviewing and applying. And it's funny, I again, the power of the network, I think it was literally like a chain of like 5 people. Like I asked this person for an intro and like they introduced me to another person. And like, it was like 5 introductions later, I finally got introduced to a recruiter. I think recruiters are also a big helpful thing. And this recruiter was like, hey, I actually have a role for you. And that recruiter was the person that actually got me that job. So I think building relationships with recruiters is also helpful. But I think the thing that people need to remember about recruiters is I think people have the misconception that a recruiter is going to find me a job. And it's actually the opposite. Recruiters have jobs that they need to find people for. So if you have this, in my experience, if you have the skill sets that a recruiter is looking for to fill the jobs that they're looking to fill, they're interested in talking to you. But if not, not so much. Yeah.
That's also another good point, right? Nurturing relationships with recruiters who, and sometimes I've told people this in the past, and sometimes they may not have a job for you. But I have found that on like a place like LinkedIn, they may not have a job for you today, but if you nurture that relationship, then maybe something comes up on their radar and they're like, hey, would you be interested in this? Because like you rightly said, they have jobs they're trying to match people to. And so by staying in their network, going back to that word, you are giving yourself opportunities.
Absolutely. It's I think like what you're saying, it's a long game. It's something that you nurture and there's long-term dividends. I think the other thing I always tell people is I think networking should be reciprocal. It's not a one-way thing. You ask things of people, but then it's reasonable and you should encourage that if they need something, they should come to you. Yeah. So I always tell people, and I'm sincere about this, that, if I meet with a recruiter and mostly they don't have anything for me, but I always tell them, hey, I have a network too. If you're looking for a role and you're struggling to fill it, even if it's not a good role for me, maybe I know someone in my network, let me know, like, hey, I have a job for this. And if I know someone who'd be a good fit, I'm happy to make that introduction. And I've actually done that before.
Yeah, no. I have also not connected with recruiters, but like you're saying, somebody who reaches out to you and says, can you help me with this? And you're like, well, I may not be able to help you, but let me point you in the direction of somebody that might. I've done that so many times. And sometimes I don't really know the people. They just have reached out to me on LinkedIn. So it's really such a powerful thing to be able to say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to ask for help. And then, of course, like you were saying, also find a way to help the other person.
That's
Right.
right.
And it could be something so small. I remember, this is going to be funny, but I remember there was this PhD who had reached out to me, and she's like, I'd really like to chat with you. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And she's like, can I send you $15 to buy coffee? And I just laughed because I was like, I don't really need the $15, but it's the first time anybody has offered me money to chat with me.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's nice that she was showing that you're busy, and she was even if you didn't accept it, but that she was showing respect for your time.
Right.
I think that's another thing is I think people want to help, but you also have to be respectful of the fact that people are busy, and I think it's not so much the ask, it's how you craft the ask.
Yeah. And being respectful of people's time. Because I've also had another situation where somebody said, can I talk with you? I made the time. And you know how it is. Like, you make the time, you clear the calendar, you lock the kids in another room. And then, not really, but, and then you get on the call and they don't show up, and so then that goes to show, like, and for people like that, sometimes, I'm not to be mean, but sometimes if they come again with another ask, I'm like, no.
Because they came out to you asking for your time and then to not show. I think just basic courtesy and respect goes a long way.
All right. So networking, respecting people's time, putting yourself out there. I like all these points. Let's talk about I know you kind of talked about what you do in your job on a daily basis, but the skills, right? So coming from research, coming from the bench to doing what you do now, what skills have made you successful in your work?
Yeah, I like that question. There's a lot of transferable skills, I think, that a PhD gives you, which is funny because a PhD itself, you become expert in such a narrow field of expertise. But what's amazing about it is the process of getting your PhD. It teaches you how to learn and problem solve and communicate in such a powerful way. So I think, the skills that have helped me be successful are being a strong writer, being able to write in a clear, compelling way. Something that was good about my graduate training is that they made us, get up and do departmental seminars like once a semester, once a year. So like the ability to have comfort with oral presentation and oral communication. I think, the thing about a PhD is you're putting your little brick in the wall of knowledge, and you're answering a question that no one's ever answered before. And so the ability to be like, I don't know the answer to that, but I know how to find the answer to that. And I think it gives you a certain fearlessness that, like, when I came into my role, I'd never taken a marketing class, but someone was basically like, you have a PhD. If you could get a PhD, I'm sure you can figure out marketing. And I did.
Exactly. So that's one really good one where you don't know something, but you find a way. So like, I always like to describe it this way: we're the bosses of learning, like we're experts at learning, right? And so that's one of the biggest skills we have as PhDs is the ability to learn and to figure things out. What other skill would you say has been useful?
I think also, in addition to, like you said, being a master of learning, I think knowing how to juggle different projects at the same time, like time management, I think you learn as a graduate student. And I think also, like, because there's some people that they only know how to do like one thing at a time. And I'm always juggling a whole bunch of projects at once. So I think the ability to multitask and juggle different projects at the same time, I think is something that's a transferable skill from academia to industry.
Wonderful. Have you had to, because I also work in a similar field to you, I've had people ask, about the necessity of having certifications, right? And so there's so many certifications out there for writers and content strategists. Have you taken any, and what's your stance on that?
I think it depends on what the job is and what you're trying to do. So, like what you were saying, mentioning communications. Say you're going into medical writing, like the Bell's exam might make sense because that's a credential that people often are looking for. For me, I mean, I work in a marketing department, so I haven't really gotten credentials that way, but I can tell you about some credentials that I have found useful. My company does a lot of work in clinical pharmacology. So I actually, the FDA had like a certificate in clinical pharmacology that I took and earned, and that was useful. I think the other thing, the credential that I think is going to be really useful for all knowledge workers is getting AI credentialed. So there's, for our field, communication, I think AI is going to start to become an indispensable part of our toolbox. And knowing how to use those tools effectively, I think will be really important. So for 2025, there's a platform called Jasper. That's a big content writing, marketing platform. So I think getting, that's a certification that I'd like to get in 2025. But I think it really depends on your role. And if the roles you're going for, say you're a project manager, well, PMP is an obvious one. And the job description often will say PMP preferred. So if the roles are saying, we prefer you to have those credentials, then you should probably get those.
Good rule of thumb, right? If there are roles, one of the things I've seen recently a lot in a lot of medical writing, because I do a lot of research on them so that I can advise other people, is a CMPP. I think it's a publication. They do a lot of publications. So if you're going to go into a job that's publication heavy,
yes,
you're going to have to get a CMPP, because I'm seeing more and more as I read those types of job descriptions, they're like CMPP preferred. And so it's becoming sort of like a standard that they expect. And so that's something that you could look into as well. This is really helpful. Actually, now that you talk about AI, the other question that I get a lot is, do you think AI is going to replace people in our types of roles? And to be honest, from where I sit right now, I don't think so. Because they're good, but they're not that good. They cannot just replace a whole marketing team. So where do you see AI playing like a really helpful? I think I have some ideas, but for me, I found AI helpful in summarizing ideas. It's helpful in maybe sometimes an initial draft of something or an outline of something. What do you think, predict the role it will play in this profession?
I agree with you that I think AI, like summarizing, getting you to the first draft. I think also like content repurposing. So like, for example, if you were to take this interview, this transcript, you could use AI to turn it into, to help make a podcast script. You could use AI to suggest video clips. You could use AI to like summarize, take the transcript and write a blog. Or then once you write the blog, you want to post it to LinkedIn and write, social posts about the amazing things that Gertrude and Suzanne are discussing. So I think that's where it's going to gain efficiency, is how do I get the most mileage out of a piece of content by repurposing it in different forms. If you had an email list, following Dr. Nantra, you could use AI to write an email, saying, check out this recent interview I did with this PhD, that sort of thing.
Right, that sort of thing. Yep. I think I'm using it in a lot of the similar ways, in a lot of similar ways. Thanks for weighing in on that. So the next question I wanted to ask was did you find anything hard? One of the thing I hear a lot from academics who are transitioning to academia, or even who have done the transitions, I felt like this was harder than I thought it was going to be. Did you find your movement, your transition hard? And what was hard about it?
Yeah, it can be challenging because I think that there are stereotypes that PhDs have to overcome, that, you're this wonky, uptight scientist that doesn't know how to communicate with anyone, that you don't know how to function in a corporate or a business environment. So I think that those are stereotypes that I sometimes encounter and have to dispel. But at the same time, I'm so grateful that I have this powerful credential, because it does give you, if you're in industry, if you're with other PhDs, it kind of establishes you as a peer. And I think that's really valuable.
That's very valuable. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you chatting with me. As we bring the conversation to an end, right? Maybe there's a question I didn't ask. There's somebody that's finishing their biomedical pharma related degree shortly, and they think they might want to do something like you. What advice would you give them?
I would say start building your network early. Take advantage of local networking. Women in Bio is a national organization. They're amazing. Get yourself out on LinkedIn and just start talking to people. Put yourself out there. As we discussed, be gracious, be respectful of people's time, and just remember that you're asking for people's help, and that's important. But always remember that you have something to give to other people as well.
You have something to give to other people as well. Well, thank you, Dr. Minton.
Thank you, Dr. Matra.